You're live. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
What happened?
Nothing. So this week's theme was Psycho Biddies,
Psycho Biddy B-sides.
which I thought was nicer than saying horror hags.
Yeah, because it is.
And so, what are some examples of well-known Psycho Biddy horror hag films?
Well, the juggernaut that set it off was Robert Aldrich's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, of course, in 1962, and then Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, Straight Jacket.
Isn't Trog or something?
Trog is not really considered that, I don't think, but you could. It's Joan Crawford's last performance.
Oh, that's 1970.
One or two, somewhere in there.
Okay, well, the options you gave us to vote on were The Baby,
Mm-hmm.
What's the Matter with Helen, Die, Die, My Darling, Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, and Night Watch. And it was pretty close for a while, but obviously Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice won.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all of these, right?
Yes, you have. No, I don't think you watched Night Watch with me, which stars Elizabeth Taylor and, of course, the great Billy Whitelaw, who you probably know as the maid from the original Omen.
I know I've seen The Baby. That movie was crazy.
The Baby,
that would have been fun to talk about.
I mean, we should probably make that a secret film on the podcast because Ruth Roman in that film is a lot of fun to watch, to say the least. And the plot twist, of course, is so ridiculous.
But Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice was, I thought, very good. I think the name made me think that it would be like sort of a schlocky, like imitation of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And then you have these two lead women. So I thought for sure it was going to be that.
Well, it's also kind of considered a loose trilogy from Robert Aldrich because Baby Jane he followed that up with Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. And then he produced this film, but stepped away from the director's seat. So it's clear that they wanted to capitalize on the Baby Jane craze with this title because it's based on a book called The Forbidden Garden by Ursula Curtis. And he had actually planned to produce another film, a fourth after this, called Whatever Happened to Dear Elva. Based on another.
Oh, that makes me think of Mulva.
Vulva.
From the only thing from Seinfeld I know.
Dolores. Yes, and I think that the name kind of detracts from this.
There's some very good writing.
Yes.
It's pretty dark. I'll get to the comments later, but the first comment about the dog being the hero, that dog was a hero.
Chloe, who's played by a male dog named Spike.
But we should tell the story. So it's about a woman named Claire, played by Geraldine Page. So she's living her upper middle class white woman housewife fantasy in the 60s when all of a sudden her husband drops dead. And at the reading of the will, I presume the lawyer tells her, like, girl, he doesn't have anything to give you except liabilities. Like, you're basically in debt. And she has no savings.
They make a big to-do about how he's the lawyer's assistant because they're waiting for her lawyer. And he's like, nope, I can just tell you because you don't got shit.
So she has a nephew in Arizona who she never talks to. So she decides to move out there. Apparently they have like a home out there. And it's in the middle of the desert. There is a neighbor, but that house is vacant. So we find out that Claire's pension, her retirement plan, is she's going to kill like these women who she lures in to be her housekeepers to steal their savings. We see her kill two ladies who she ultimately buries in the backyard with like pine trees.
Yep.
And we see more than two pine trees. So I would assume that she killed more than just the two women we saw.
Well, her nephew's wife is like, you have such bad luck with housekeepers.
So one day, Ruth Gordon shows up. What's her character's name?
She's the Aunt Alice of the title.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Ruth Gordon is Aunt Alice.
Alice Dimmock.
She shows up, and basically, Ruth Gordon is not really a housekeeper. She is the boss / friend of the previous housekeeper who went missing or who we saw be killed.
Who is played by Mildred Dunnock, who is herself nominated for 2 Oscars.
So on Alice, Ruth Gordon, she has taken this job to try to find out where her friend went. And she realizes that it's Geraldine Page's character who did something with her. and Geraldine realizes she knows, they get into a fight. Poor Ruth ends up getting killed. So Geraldine thinks she got away with it. But someone moves into the house next door, which is throwing a wrench in her plan because she was thinking she was free to kill these folks because no one's watching.
And that woman is a recently widowed, played by Rosemary Forsyth.
She has a son and a dog, and the dog is like a nuisance to Geraldine Page.
The dog is not hers. The dog is a tramp, a stray.
Oh, that's right.
Or as she calls, a vagrant bitch, because she killed the dog's owner.
That's right. So one night, Geraldine, because she realizes that the neighbor lady knows that there's something not right, so she drugs that lady, knocks her out, and burns her house down.
She thinks that Alice had confided in them.
Right. So she burns their house down with the three of them in there, the mom, the son, and the dog. And then Geraldine trots her ass back to her house and goes to bed. But in the morning, she's awakened by the dog barking. So she freaks out because she thought she had killed that dog. And then we see that the neighbor, the kid, the dog, the police, her nephew, they're all at her house and they've dug up her yard to show like they know she killed folks. And then the final scene is just her sort of rambling on about how she needs to go into the city, but she knows the jig is up. The end. Yeah,
and we forget that Alice's nephew is also lurking in the background and helping her out secretly.
Yeah, Ruth Gordon's nephew is helping her.
And having a romance with Rosemary Forsyth.
The neighbor lady.
The neighbor lady, yeah.
And the way Geraldine Page's character is tricking these women into getting their money is she's telling them, like, my stockbroker can help double your money, so give me your savings. And then telling them, like, well, the stock market crashed, whatever. Okay. The first thing I thought of once we learn what's happening is that Netflix series Worst Roommate Ever. And that one lady named, it's episode 1, Dorothea Puente, who was like running like a group home. Someone knows, yeah. Running that group. That's the first thing I thought, which was so sad. And then that poor social worker who kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Well, because she had put that man in that home, I believe. She coordinated it.
Yeah, but I mean, she did. How could she have?
Right.
And it's very obvious that she was trying to be a crusader. But yeah, that's the first person I thought of. The Geraldine Page is giving me Jessica Lange.
Jessica Lange, maybe a little Marcia Gay Harden. Geraldine Page is an excellent actress. She was nominated for 8 Oscars. She won for her last one, Trip to Bountiful. Really good, like Jessica Lange at playing kind of Southern fried neurotics. Highly recommend Don Siegel's original The Beguiled. That's one of my favorite performances from her. Sweet Bird of Youth, the Tennessee Williams. She was married to Rip Torn, who I believe is a supporting role in Sweet Bird of Youth.
Oh.
I find it interesting, the age disparity between the two women, because
you told me that Ruth Gordon is 73.
She should be around that because she's born in like 1896.
And then Geraldine Page is only 45.
She was born in 1924.
She does look younger than Ruth, but Ruth looks good.
I think that character, Claire Marrable, is supposed to be older in the book, from what I understand. So maybe that's why they made her seem a little more dowdy. And she kind of has the same hairstyle in this, Geraldine, as Delphine Seyrig and Elaine Renee's Muriel.
Speaking of hair, I think it's funny that Ruth Gordon's character comes in with a head wrap, so we don't see her hair. And then once she gets the job and she's all done up, she has this like copper, like kitty cat wig on.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene where she has taken her wig off to like style it. And she's wearing like a gray kitty cat wig.
What did you say? The wigs on wigs on wigs.
It was wigs on wigs on wigs. I thought that was funny. And then we can get to the ending, but I thought the writing was very, very good. I think Geraldine Page's character has some really funny lines.
Well, even at the beginning, she is positively salivating over what this will is going to yield, because she's putting she's like brandy lends an elegance to tea. It's like, okay, girl,
you need to calm down. But she has lines like, I shouldn't teach you anymore considering how little you've absorbed under my tutelage.
Yeah, she's just a bitch.
Or she's yelling at the neighbor about, you already alluded to it, but the full line about the dog is, I haven't taken diligent care of my garden to have it wrecked by this vagrant bitch. Like, oh my God.
Well, then there's a child there. Like, okay.
And then she's being very bossy to Ruth Gordon's character, and at one point she wants a drink, and she's like, "Are you aware that the cocktail hour has come and gone?"
Oh, right. And she's like, it's just a few minutes late.
We can still have a drink, bitch.
I am not familiar with preparing pheasant.
Speaking of salivating, when she tells her how you need to say liqueur like it's French.
Yeah.
But when Ruth Gordon tells her, because when the previous housekeeper tells Geraldine, "Oh, I have $9,000." You see Geraldine like, "Ooh," but then when Ruth Gordon's like, "Oh, I have 46,000," and then Geraldine is like, she's like choking on her own saliva.
It's like the record rip sound, like
what? She's like, "Well, let me think about it." And then the same night, we need to take a road trip the next day.
Yeah, basically about some music festival or something, and that's what gets Ruth Gordon hemmed up. And Ruth Gordon is fresh off her Oscar win for Rosemary's Baby in this.
What did she do? Geraldine did something like an expression where I said it was like when Blue Hydrangea sent Pangina Heels home.
Oh, because she knows that she did something wrong and she acts shocked.
I just think there's like the subtleties and like the acting and the bitchiness of Geraldine Page is so good. The scene where Geraldine is trying to kill the dog. And that dog was like, "I'm not dying on this day," because they go into like the
that's a very
like the shed,
uncomfortable scene, and she's trying to like hit that dog with an axe.
It was uncomfortable because I'm like, no, she's gonna kill this poor dog, and the dog like hides under the table
and is snarling at her.
Yeah. So the boy sees his mom, sees that the neighbor's son sees Ruth's nephew with another woman. So
the woman is Claire's nephew's wife, who's got hot drawers, and
right
when we're introduced to them at this dinner party scene where Geraldine Page is in a wheelchair. Her nephew's wife is clearly like flirting with some other man at the party. Yeah, because remember, she chastises him like, "We had one chance to meet because I don't have a lot of free time because I'm married." And
that lady was pretty fly.
She was beautiful. That is Joan Huntington, who just died last year in Palm Springs. But she's on a wavelength of like Tina Louise and Jan Sterling.
Okay. But I brought it up because when Ruth's nephew goes to visit the neighbor, like the woman he's seeing, the son is mad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, "You're with some other woman." I'm like, this boy is all up in grown folks' business.
He's like, "We saw you with another woman, and Mom, don't let him do it."
You need to calm
down. They have an interesting relationship because he takes Robert Fuller, playing the nephew of Aunt Alice, takes Rosemary Forsyth away, and then he kind of explains what happens to her. And he's like, "Do you want to go home now?" And she goes,
"That's my next note."
She goes, "No." But
I'm like, "What about your kid?
Is your kid at home?" There's another scene where they're like picnicking on this rocky terrain, and they're looking for the kid, and he's like got binoculars and he's smoking.
The scene at the end when like the showdown between Geraldine and Ruth, where they're like fighting with the phone, and I was so upset because the fact that Ruth Gordon dies.
It's upsetting.
It's very upsetting.
Geraldine hitting her on the phone, that reminded me of Kathleen Turner beating the shit out of and killing Patty Hearst in Serial Mom.
How Geraldine escapes the house without anyone knowing that Ruth is dead is they switch wigs and outfits, which was funny. And then poor Ruth wakes up in the car and she beats her with her purse. Like, oh my God. And then her plan, which she executes, is to have the car go into the lake. And the look on her face, like she was so proud of herself for executing this plan. Like, this woman is evil. And then you said a better title for the movie would be Terrible Mrs. Marrable. I thought that was good.
Or the Terrible Marrables. I'd like the tagline for the film is, "What makes her garden grow? Wouldn't you like to know?"
Oh. Then when Geraldine is setting the house on fire, she does it by lighting a pillow. And, these are like, they're really doing it. So I thought that looked kind of funny because she's kind of like shaking this pillow on fire.
Yeah, she's shaking it all around.
The curtains on. And oh my God. So the final gag of the story is that when Geraldine invited her neighbor over with the son, they were like snooping around, and the boy finds like a stamp collection. And then Geraldine says, "You can have it." And then in the end, they tell her, like, your stamp collection was worth $100,000. Like, you didn't have to do all this. You could have just sold those stamps. I thought that was really good.
Well, it's like there would have been a better way to reveal that. And I do like her final line, because she says she's looking at the garden and she goes, "I would have made a fine pine tree."
Yeah. There was nothing about this movie I didn't like. The only thing that the ending when the police are there, I feel like they should have tackled her ass. I don't know why they let her sit there and ponder her few like.
Well, I also wanted somebody to say they had a warrant, because right away she's like, "You're trespassing."
Well, they dug up her yard, so
I'm sure that they did, but
watch her go to trial and it's like a mistrial because they collected evidence in an unlawful way.
yeah, see,
that should be the sequel that she gets off.
Yeah, and then the ending is much like the recent film The Estate with Toni Collette, about that painting that's worth all the money.
Right. But yeah, so I really, really like this movie.
Notably, it was the original director was Bernard Gerard, who has an interesting filmography. I like The Mind Snatchers with Christopher Walken, and Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round with James Coburn. But he's shot this for 4 weeks and then left the production, citing creative differences. And it was who has credit for directing this film is Lee H. Katzin, who is probably more notable for television, but directed a Steve McQueen race car movie called Le Mans. But yeah, I think that if you've seen Bernard Gerard's other films, I think it really does feel more like some kind of weirder thing that he did.
What else you got?
I think that's about it.
What would you give this movie?
3.5.
There was nothing about this movie I didn't like. I might give it like 4.5.
Damn. Okay.
Well, I mean, I love the story. I love the acting.
The score, I like how it was shot by Oscar winner Joseph Barak, who would later he shot a lot of Aldrich films, but Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, The Legend of Layla Claire with Kim Novak, which is a terrible movie, but also kind of fun to watch. And he won his Oscar for shooting The Towering Inferno a few years later.
The only thing I didn't really connect with was the ending, like how they kind of waited for her to get up instead of snatching her out of bed. But other than that, I thought it was a perfect movie.
Yeah, but again, it allows her to have that kind of unraveling a la, Blanche Dubois, right, where she's dependent upon the kindness of strangers. Right?
Well, I'll go through the comments. Hello, New York. I agree, all the actors were great. Someone hasn't seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I would recommend it.
Mm-hmm, especially,
I feel like there are a lot of references to that movie that we see.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the sort of the ending with Betty Davis and her little swimsuit, like doing circles in the beach with her ice cream cone, and that awful makeup is so creepy. What movies were given 5 stars to? Oh God. Can you think of any movies you get? I know I said Do the Right Thing is 5 stars.
Do the Right Thing, Paris is Burning.
Paris is Burning. The documentary I gave 5 stars. Can you think of anything?
No, but if on Letterboxd, I'm still.
Yeah, follow Nick on Letterboxd because he's. Do you know how many films you've entered so far?
6,500 around. But I have like over 11,000 altogether to enter.
So I'm sure, and it does show the stats of like all the 5-star, 4.
Yeah, there are a few 5 stars on there for sure. I mean, they're personal favorites. Like Suddenly Last Summer. Well, I don't think is a perfect film, but I'm absolutely in love with that film.
Yeah. Hello, Scotland. Well, you talked about high exploitation is another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is also a disrespectful terminology.
Have I seen The Beguiled?
No, but we've been requested to talk about that, Sofia Coppola remade that in 2017. And I think that, which is fine enough. She cuts out the one black character, which is kind of one of the more interesting elements of Don Siegel's film. But Nicole Kidman is the Geraldine Page part, and I think it throws it out of whack because Nicole Kidman is very well preserved, and you need that character to be kind of ripe and exuding a sense of fecundity to repel the male lead. And I just don't believe it about Nicole Kidman, whereas Geraldine Page is, pitch perfect.
I agree that, well, a John Waters, are there enough John Waters?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'd have to exclude, well, no, we can include the popular ones.
I mean, I like, the only John Waters film I don't like is probably Desperate Living. Like that, where they live in the trash heap.
Is that the one where she's, no, which?
But what's her name?
Which is the one with Eggman?
Pink Flamingos.
Oh.
Edith, what's her name? I'm forgetting.
Massey.
Yes, Edith Massey. Edith Massey does have a fun
I don't
part.
know how I know that, but
I don't. Oh, that picture of her in that leather outfit. She's my favorite part of Desperate Living, but that's a harder film. It's less irreverent.
What? I should know this, but I'm not a millennial. Am I?
You're on the edge. I think technically you might be Gen X.
I think I'm Gen X.
and I'm an elder millennial.
Yeah, I think I'm a Gen X.
Although I've read somewhere that there's a terminology for certain millennials called Zennials.
Oh God.
As well. I don't know. Whatever.
I feel like a boomer most days. I could rewatch Sunset Boulevard. I almost put it on the other day.
Oh, I would love to rewatch that.
Did we get emotional? Well, I wasn't invited to. Well, Nick saw Wakanda Forever, but there were no guests allowed, so I haven't seen it yet. But you did enjoy it.
I did get emotional at Angela Bassett's death. That's why I think there's a decent way to do these kinds of films. You have to make us care about the characters, and that's in the writing and that's in the performances. And I think a lot of Marvel films just coast. But yeah, there are a few really well done moments. But we're also paying tribute to this dead legend. So you walk into that film, I think, primed for that.
Someone said I need to start watching older movies. Before I started watching, I didn't watch movies really before I met Nick. And I think, when you started showing me like 1950s type, I remember thinking like, I don't want to watch this old shit, like this black and white shit. And I have to say, like dollar for dollar, I'm usually more impressed with like classic film by far than I am with all the shit we watch now.
Right. But there is something to be said about that. Even as a gay person, you're forced to be a scavenger looking for representations or looking for, all the coded language and the coded characters that are speaking to me. And that's why I think as gay men, we had to take the next best thing, which is, fabulous women is who they responded to. But you see it that there are people that were trying to get points across that, win over the heads of middle America. I think Suddenly Last Summer is a great example of that. But talking about racism, Michael Curtis's The Turning Point, the end of that film is quite a statement about white America with this abandoned little black boy left on this dock. That again, and that's in a film noir. It's actually a version of To Have and Have Not. But anyway, there are examples.
If you recast Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, who would you?
Well, initially I was like, well, Jessica Lange, but and I think I said Jessica Lange, Patricia Clarkson.
Oh.
But Marcia Gay Harden, I think, would work as well.
Okay.
What about you?
Oh gosh, I like those choices. I don't know who I would. Well, because then I don't know if I'd want to modernize it. Because then I have to think like, if it's modern, who would I?
Well,
because it wouldn't be that easy for her to take money. Well, no, actually, it would. She could
do. There are ways.
Yeah.
You'd have to update several things, but Baby Jane, there was a TV remake of that movie with the Redgrave sisters in the early 90s. But Walter Hill bought the rights to that. And I know I've talked about this before, and because Walter Hill's produced the Alien movies, and I had always hoped that he was going to redo that with Meryl Streep and Sigourney Weaver.
Your shirt is a Vertigo shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to show it? Should I? Well, maybe. Can you?
Here, just do that.
I'm not wearing pants. Okay. Oh, who's on it?
Well, it's Kim Novak is the two.
There you go.
They're both Kim Novak.
Don't expose myself. Okay.
Yes, Lila Claire. Speaking of Kim Novak and Robert Aldrich, I could actually rewatch. I would love to watch that with you because it is
Lila Claire,
The Legend of Lila Claire. Because Aldrich based off the success of the renewed rejuvenation of his career, had his own studio that, and I think all of the films that he made with that, the Grissom Gang, were all very interesting, but they all kind of failed to perform. But oh God, Robert Aldrich, he directed this great film. Great. I highly enjoy Hustle with Burt Reynolds and Catherine Deneuve, mid-70s.
We did start American Horror Story NYC.
I forgot we started.
Yeah, we watched 2 episodes.
I would continue. It's very overbaked Ryan Murphy.
I will definitely continue. I also, I think, forgot about it, but we watched 2 episodes and then we've been so busy. Obviously love that it's extra gay. It wasn't giving me exactly what I needed, but it might. I'll finish it for sure. Let's see.
Yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That
You gave that?
Okay. Yes. I mean, you saw it after me. I don't know if you've held it in the same esteem.
I think I would give it. Yeah, I think I would give it. Well, I would definitely give it like 4.5, 5, maybe. I could rewatch it. Can you recommend a couple classic movies from the 50s or 70s? Well, there's so many.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you want to see like campy old lady performances? Do you want to see like good blaxploitation?
Well, the 70s was
a good like 60s crime, like thriller.
I would have to think, but there's a ton. But the 70s,
maybe this person will narrow
the 70s, is unprecedented in American cinema because that was new Hollywood. That's where you had all these major film studios throwing money at all these auteurs, like The Devils, the Ken Russell film, which is also in my top 10 of all time. That was a fucking Warner Brothers film, which is crazy to believe that they made that movie. But you had Kubrick and Spielberg and Lucas and all of Robert Altman, McCabe and Mrs. Miller. To think that kind of money was behind those film productions is insane, but I love them.
Someone is anxious to see the Menu review.
I did enjoy the Menu.
Spoiler, I did really like that movie.
And I'm consistently impressed with Anya Taylor-Joy.
I really like how she looks too.
I do too.
Even her acting's strong.
She's one of those people I think that elevates. Like, I did not like Last Night in Soho, but I liked watching her in it.
Oh, who's the lady in Amsterdam I liked?
Margot Robbie?
No, her sister-in-law.
Oh God, I have to.
Remy Malek's wife.
Oh, that's her.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
She's the only good, I liked her in that movie too, even though I didn't like the movie. I have seen the movie Doubt and I did like it.
That was I think like a date night movie.
Oh God. Well, that wasn't
Viola is very good in that. I would have, Meryl is good, always good, but would have loved to see Cherry Jones in the film.
Can you answer the question, what country or countries, if any, had a significant impact on cinema we see today? Here we go.
Well, France. I mean, you have Godard and Truffaut and Claude Chabrol and Eric Romer and all the French New Wave. And then because that also was a break from the studio system, the American studio system that the whole world revered. And I think you saw a lot of other countries start to do that as well. Germany and Czechoslovakia and just everywhere. And then you still see spurts of new waves or new waves, like the Romanian new wave in the mid 2000s. But I also think in the US, indie films like Soderbergh, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and the success of that all kicked off a new era of filmmaking as well.
Do you think this is an interesting question. Why do you think the Miami Vice Jamie Foxx movie failed?
Because it's not very good. It's okay. I think, we're talking about an audience from the people that love that series from the 80s. You just couldn't instill what Michael Mann was doing with that series in this film and with these two leads. I don't think it's very well written. I don't love how it looks from what I remember, but it's an okay film. But yeah, it doesn't live up to this large saga of the TV series.
Do you know what Morvern Collar is?
Yeah, I think
Collar.
Yes, starring Samantha Morton. That's a Lynn Ramsey film. Excellent Samantha Morton performance. I'm glad to see her in a few things this year as well, like The Whale and She Said. even though I wasn't entirely crazy about either of those films, her roles in them, I think, her performances are good.
Wait, who is she again?
Samantha Morton.
Who does she play in The Whale?
She plays
the wife,
the
ex-wife.
mother. Yeah.
What type of movie was Pink Flamingos? Like, how would you categorize Pink Flamingos? Which one is that again? Which is the one where she wants the shoes?
That's Female Trouble.
So which one's Pink Flamingo?
Where she eats the dog poop.
The dog poop? Oh,
Mhm.
I don't remember anything about that movie except the dog poop, I
Oh,
guess.
you don't remember the man's anus
No.
that he's displaying? That's Eggman.
Oh, so Edith Massey's and Pink Flamingos.
Mhm.
Oh.
That's Mink Stole, and what's his name is the Streakers, and
I would classify it as just filth, like campy filth.
I think that's what he would love. Yes,
Yeah. I think John Waters would like that.
And maybe in probably a decade before the terminology, like it's a punk film. That's what he's doing is punk.
The picture over the range is Janet Jackson with Sigourney Weaver.
Circa like what, 06 or 07?
Maybe. I'm not properly dressed to get up and go get it at the moment, but yeah. In another live video, I did get up and go get it. It's whatever video I'm wearing a black tank top.
Mm-hmm.
That video, I do grab it.
Blaxploitation would be great. Yes, well versed in blaxploitation.
Yeah, you've watched a lot,
and we own a lot too. I mean, I like Pam Grier a lot, but that hers aren't even the most fun blaxploitations. Or in Friday Foster, she's completely upstaged by Eartha Kitt.
Interesting. In American Horror Story NYC, the leather-clad like killer dude could be a metaphor for AIDS. That's interesting.
That's interesting because it's like the serial killer in Cruising, right? Where it's everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Bette Midler, yeah. There's a few.
Okay, can you think of crime dramas from the 50s and 50s through the 70s? You can think on it.
Yeah, my mind goes immediately to something like Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Cercle Rouge or Le Samurai.
Is the menu worth spoiling? It was what I thought it would. Like, it was pretty much what I assumed it would be from the trailer. Like, obviously they're going to eat at a restaurant where they're going to get more than they paid for. And the reasoning behind it is, I think, the strength of the story of why bad things are going to happen.
Have we ever watched the Norman Jewison film, The Landlord? Is that Norman Jewison or is that Hal Ashby? In my mind, I think that was Hal Ashby, but that's the scene where they had the great clip of the woman saying, like, you're going to have to be a whole lot blacker and badder to call me a...
Oh, yeah, because she calls... Yeah. Oh, I posted on Instagram.
Yes, that's a really great clip, but that's... Pearl Bailey is in that, and she has a couple really great scenes I like with Lee Grant. But yes, I do like The Landlord.
Any plans to review classic TV shows? I can't imagine I would do that. But not because I don't enjoy them, but that's just a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Because that would have to be, like, what would that even be like? Like a video per episode, or...
Like classic TV, like classic, like Green
Like
Acres,
I Love Lucy, like do like one season, like that's a lot. But I do enjoy those shows.
Sure. One of your favorite comedies from the 80s, well, Ghostbusters for Sigourney reference.
Oh gosh, I couldn't even think. Wow. I'd have to look at a list of 80s
I mean, they're Working Girl. There are a lot. Have you seen Paradise Love? Yeah, I've seen all of Ulrich Seidel's Paradise trilogy. I interviewed him for that trilogy back in whenever that came out. And I was quoted on Paradise Faith, which is my favorite of those. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Because at the time that premiered in LA only at the Silent Theater, remember, on Fairfax, which has now become something else. And there were protests. There were Catholic protesters outside of that film.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Japanese anime and Chinese martial arts in Italy. Yeah, I mean, they've all had big influence on U.S. cinema.
Of course. Yeah.
I feel like China the most because a lot of it's funded by China. So.
Well, and then, the American tradition of taking a successful, international film and then just remaking it, just redoing it.
We saw a release of Jaws on the big screen this year and loved it. What older films should we see on the big screen? I just watched something that I said I would love to see on the big screen.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, I always prefer to see things on the big screen, but I don't know. Like, I like to check what, living in LA, there are several venues that play older films, and it's fun to go see older things. I saw that there are all kinds of retrospectives going on all the time in Los Angeles, like the Ray Liotta retrospective, where I just got to see Heartbreakers again on the big screen, and it is a treat.
Someone didn't like the remake of Hairspray.
I've never seen the remake of Hairspray.
I've seen it more than once,
clips.
and I couldn't tell you much about it, except I know John Travolta is in drag.
Hairspray,
Queen Latifah, Ricky Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, and then who's the guy who plays like the handsome? Wow. So we probably should do a John Waters.
Well, he didn't do the remake, but Divine,
that's true.
Divine and Debbie Harry and your friend Sonny Bono, I believe, were in the original.
Okay. How do you remember all this stuff?
Because I like it, I guess.
We have not been listening to the TCM podcast about
but
that sounds interesting.
I had a friend send me that, actually. Yes, I have that on a list of things to do. Was Frank Sinatra a really good actor?
I can't even think of him in a movie.
Well, he won his Oscar for From Here to Eternity.
Frank Sinatra has an Oscar for acting?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe so. And that movie.
I didn't even know he was in movies.
Yes. You haven't seen the Godfather films, but the beginning of the Godfather, the Coppola classic, is somebody gets a horse head in the bed, and that's rumored that Sinatra used his mafia connections to get the role that he wanted in that movie. And it's also rumored because, he was married to Mia Farrow briefly and divorced her on the set of Rosemary's Baby. That's where her papers were served. When the whole Woody Allen thing was going down, purportedly, he offered to have Woody's legs broken. But no, I don't think I think Frank Sinatra looks like E.T. He doesn't do it for me. Fine, nice voice.
Beautiful gowns. We have not reviewed Abby or Blackula.
You've seen Abby. Which is the black version of The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then there's a movie called Black Devil Doll from Hell.
Oh, my God. That's so hard to sit through. But Abby's got Juanita Moore from Imitation of Life.
What did Steven Spielberg say about movie streaming? I don't know.
Probably that he doesn't like it. I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, we live in a world where that's the reality. There's too much how could you go to see everything in the theater? You just can't.
Well, I don't know what he said, so I can't comment. But I do think streaming is a nice option because it gives access to not only film goers to watch more things in the comfort of their own home, but also filmmakers can produce because like these indie filmmakers are not going to get their movies shown in an AMC. So where else are they going to show them? So streaming. But I don't know what he said.
And Blackula, I haven't watched that in years. And I actually, as a Pam Grier fan, I've never seen. She's in the sequel, Scream, Blackula, Scream.
What do you think is the best film of the year so far?
Well, my favorite, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Tar are neck and neck for my favorites.
I think I gave Tar 4, I think. So I guess I would say Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
But there's something else that I really liked too. I don't know.
You liked the George Miller.
What's that?
3,000 Years of Longing.
Oh, I did like 3,000 Years of Longing.
Have you seen Cosmopolis with Robert Pattinson? Of course, it's a Cronenberg production. One of a couple. Did Pattinson just do 2 with Cronenberg? But yeah, I like Cosmopolis. It's based on a Don DeLillo novel, which I haven't read, and I reviewed it for Ion Cinema.
Have you seen All Quiet on the Western Front?
No, I just read the book, and I have been planning to watch it.
Hello, New Zealand.
The original was Best Picture winner.
Oh, have you seen Once We're Warriors?
Yes, years ago though.
My Father's Den.
I have not seen My Father's Den.
Can you think of any other New Zealand movies that you enjoyed?
Well, isn't Taika Waititi from New Zealand?
Has Nick sold his soul to the devil for his memory? Well, he doesn't believe in the devil, but
no.
But he would if there were a thing, probably.
Everybody, at least hear what kind of deals he offers. I don't know.
I cry have you ever cried or become emotional during a movie? I cry very easily.
Yes. Well, there's something, especially in the theater, because there's something about being vulnerable in the dark, and you're also private. Like you are not on display, so you can kind of have those moments. But yes.
Okay, Nicole Kidman. Yes, we're married. Someone also, what does Frank Sinatra look like? E.T.?
Sorry, what did somebody say? Are you disagreeing?
No, that they agree.
Yeah, he's not cute to me. I don't know. He's got a big rock head.
Well, I'm looking at a picture of him.
Well, yeah, his mugshot when he's young, sure, but when
I guess.
No, look him up in he. You know what I could rewatch is he did a movie with Faye Dunaway.
What I wanted to say is he still got bitches, but I'm not allowed to say that anymore. The original Ocean's 11.
You know, I've never seen that with Angie Dickinson and the Rat Pack. Mm-hmm. I would. Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, but that's from.
Oh, like minis. Oh, like for a TV series, something like Roots. You know, I would watch.
I would watch Roots.
I've seen it. You know, as a kid, it would show like annually on the TV.
I think it came out when I was. What was that? Is that 82? So I wasn't even born yet. But I remember watching Queen with Halle Berry, Alex Haley's miniseries with my mom as a little kid.
Oh, what time is it in Los Angeles? 11:41. Once We're Warriors. You talked about that. Manchurian Candidate.
I could rewatch that. I would love to rewatch the original Manchurian Candidate, especially since Angela died. Yeah, Up is emotional. Cartoons, Inside Out. I remember being kind of emotional watching that, and we were in this screening with a ton of children.
Sorry, I'm reading comments. Oh, do you think Ronan Farrow is Frank's son? I mean, they do look alike.
I mean, he's like Ronan is like if Frank were more handsome. So I think he's better looking than Frank Sinatra. Not that matters what I think here nor there, but
we have not heard from our neighbors about my peeping comments. I don't know.
Well, there's not a lot to see over here, but
yeah, I don't know. Like our no one has, but I don't know who would. What one of our neighbors would watch our video
when you're looking over the rooftops of Paris.
Yeah. Someone said ugly men will always have bitches if they have money.
Yeah.
Leslie Chung or Tony Long? Leslie Chung.
Tony Long.
Those are actors.
Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I have that box set that Criterion put out that I haven't to rewatch those. It's there's you kind of have to be in a solid like a mood like this is I'm going to watch this piece of art sometimes. But
do you think reading so many novels can help a person be more mature and experienced without actually going through life?
Yeah, I think any kind of consuming any kind of art, I think taps into a sense of humanity. But if you think about, the Bronte sisters or Emily Dickinson, like these were basically cloistered people that didn't go out and wrote these classics about all these turmoil of emotion. So I think that literature books can transform you. Like I think as a kid, my grandma had like a library of books, but I was reading like Maya Angelou in 4th grade, and I'm from a kind of a small town, and I don't know. I think those things tap into others' experiences in ways that you can't even fathom when you're reading it, but they stay with you.
Have you seen The Lover, an early 90s movie?
Yeah, that's based on the Marguerite Duras. I have not seen that film, but that's Marguerite Duras' an adaptation.
I also got teary-eyed during Inside Out, but we saw Inside Out at like a press screening where there were children and there were little kids crying too.
Oh yeah. And that was kind of hard and it was emotional seeing parents like comfort their children because mine wouldn't have done that. But
best book to film adaptation?
Oh God, I don't know. It's interesting when something's better than the source, right? Because like Kubrick's The Shining, I prefer over King's novel, as Rob Reiner's Misery kind of as well. Yeah, I don't know. As a best one, I'd have to think about that.
Have we watched Soul?
No, but we should.
Yes. Oh, with Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey. Yeah. Richard Burton or Frank Langella?
I always have to look up when I remember he used to date Whoopi Goldberg. I think Right? Richard Burton. I mean, Chungking Express. Yeah, that might be Wong Kar. I don't know. I'm trying to. What's the queer film that he did though? Happy Together. I remember liking that a lot too.
Worst movie we've ever seen. If you go on Letterboxd, you can see what Nick ranked as like a 0.5.
There are a lot.
And also I've ranked. I'm not done with my list, but I have a few 0.5s on there. I know Fantasy Island is on there. That shark movie with Trace Adkins
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, there are quite a few 0.5s. So
yes, American Psycho. Yeah, Mary Herron's American Psycho. I prefer to Bret Easton Ellis's book. That was a hard book I remember to get through. My favorite of his though is probably Rules of Attraction, and I remember reading that the year I graduated high school, thinking, "Is this what it's going to be like?"
I haven't watched Mad Men. Have you?
No. Sphere, the Michael Crichton adaptation. I'm forgetting who directed that, but I remember Sharon Stone and Dustin Hoffman and Samuel Jackson in a very okay film.
Have you read the Silence of the Lambs book?
No, for whatever reason, I read Hannibal, the year that was published. But that film is hard to beat. I'm sure Thomas Harris's novel is good as well, but.
Do you find classic novels a bit too tedious for modern audiences? Maybe modern era calls for short stories more.
No, I don't agree. I like getting lost in something very expansive sometimes. It just depends. Like Vanity Fair, I think, was a great long novel, but then I remember it depends on period too. Like I remember reading Melmoth the Wanderer, and I don't think I ever finished it because it's like, this is just too dry for me.
Thoughts on Bella Tarr as a director?
Oh God, like I remember at the Walker in Minneapolis, seeing Satan Tango, which is like 7.5 or 8 hours in one stretch, and feeling just robbed of my essence afterward. But I'm so sad he retired. I know he has his acting school, but the Turin Horse is also a great and a much more feasible running time. There are a few of his I haven't seen, like Workmeister Harmonies. But
have you seen Kids or Bully?
Of course, Larry Clark. There's an interesting. Kids came out when I was in elementary school, and I remember that was one of those VHS that somebody's would get a hold of it and they would secretly watch it. And I haven't watched it in years, but there's a documentary that just came out a year or two ago about that was very illuminating. And I noticed my Sammy Davis Jr. was in Everything is Illuminated reference.
I probably watch more TV than Nick does. We did watch Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, which I think I enjoyed more than you, but I like those ladies.
But I like shows like, oh gosh, what's the one on Netflix with Wanda Sykes and Mike Epps and Kim Fields?
Not the Upshaws?
The Upshaws. I've watched all that. And then what's the one with Loretta Devine and one of the Maori sisters? Something.
Family
Reunion.
Because it's Loretta Devine saying Family Reunion.
Yeah, I watched that. I watch some TV, and I do watch, I rewatched all of Martin. I'll watch Living Single on like Hulu or.
Barry Levinson of Rain Man and Wag the Dog, and we just watched another Barry Levinson film, Bandits.
Do you think watching too many movies over the years has influenced you? Or, sorry, I'm reading this incorrectly. From just sitting back and enjoying a movie for what it is.
Yeah, I think that's always an argument for film critics, but I think that it makes you have a keener eye, and you're able to deduce, maybe what someone's intentions are. Or, yes, it does rob the fun of it sometimes, but I don't mind that, because it's also inspiring and exciting, I think, to kind of really dig into that, because before film I did the same thing with literature, so I like that part of it.
Speaking of To Kill a Mockingbird, down the street at the Pantages, there is a production of To Kill a Mockingbird
that Aaron Sorkin, which I find, To Kill the Harper Lee novel, of course, is a classic. I find the original film is very white savior-y, like more than it needs to be. So I'd be curious to see his production, but I doubt we'll see that.
Oh, does someone call us dads because I see they're uncles, not dads? Or is that, what is it that reference to? Did you see Ghost World?
Yeah, Terry Zwick, Thor Birch, and ScarJo. Yeah, that's a Criterion release as well. Yeah, that's a good film.
Pasternak.
Pasternak. Yeah, I've never read Boris Pasternak. My mom really had a thing for Dr. Zhivago, though.
I probably watch more reality TV than Nick does.
Yeah, I'll catch snippets of it. You watch The Chasing.
Oh my God. There is a YouTube channel. This is the only YouTube channel I've ever shouted out, but there's one called Chasing Reality, and it's Black, queer, and trans people trying to do like Real Housewives. Like they're trying, like it's very familiar format. The quality of it is pretty poor, specifically the sound, but there's just something so intriguing about these people really hustling to like be something. And they have it for Dallas and LA, and season 2 of LA is out, and everything's on YouTube. But yeah, they're like these self-produced hour-long episodes, and I can't get enough. And then Real Housewives, people ask me about Real Housewives all the time. I only know about that through social media, and then I'll watch like the reunions, and that seems like.
And usually I'll be in the room when you do that, but
I would recommend the Upshaws.
Yeah, it's Wanda Sykes is always entertaining, and Mike Epps.
And Mike, yeah.
And there's a gay character.
Yeah, Mike Epps has a son who's gay and is a FedEx driver. And the scene where he comes out to his dad, I thought was handled in a very realistic and kind way. But they still kept it real. Like,
I did rewatch a lot of Martin with you. We also watched Moesha during the pandemic as well.
Thank you, Nadine. Yeah, we rewatched all of Martin.
And Queen Latifah and Living Single.
Film snob. People are saying nice things.
Spoilers. I usually, I don't even. I go into a lot of things blind now. Not that I don't really care either way. It's whatever the universe has chosen to present to me, and I've absorbed it. But
I don't use enough THC to really say. The only THC I consume are gummies that I bought like a bunch of bags of the same, and they're a hybrid. But I don't know sativa from indica. I know one is like up and one is down.
Had some rough experiences with.
I've had rough experiences, and I don't need to be. I'm already pretty sedate, and then me being hype is not cute because it turns into like paranoid. When I'm paranoid, I just shut down. So it's not fun for anyone because I'll just go hide in a corner. Let's see here. Chasing Reality is the channel, and then they have like Chasing LA, Chasing Dallas. They have other little things. They have their own little reunions. It's really charming because it's like self-produced, but yeah, don't judge me if you watch it and think it's crap. I just think that these people I admire how motivated they are.
Mm-hmm. Tenderness of the Wolves. Yes, I've seen it at least twice. Arrow Video put it out a few years ago. It's recommended. You got Fassbender's crew in this serial killer film about a pedophile serial killer. Yeah, it's interesting.
Living Single is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to know about what we've given 5s to, I would check Letterboxd. And then
I hope to be updated completely within the next 2 weeks, but it's taking a long time.
I don't know films we've intensely disagreed about. I didn't like Blonde as much as you did, but we
did disagree about Blonde.
But it wasn't intensely disagreed.
We probably more intensely disagreed about Earwig in recent memory.
Oh, well, it's just like sometimes you read the book and then you try to throw in stuff from the book, and it's like, well, that's usually when I get fussy. Like, anyway. Sativa's up, indica's down. Yeah, I don't know. I recently discovered that taking Dramamine gets me like kind of high. So the next time I want to spend the evening being conked out, I'll just take some Dramamine.
Mm-hmm. Sigourney, oh yeah, I mean, I knew that she was playing a teenager because they announced it a couple months ago. But yeah, it's interesting hearing her voice.
Oh. We'd be talking for hours out on the veranda, keeping it simple, good food and messiness. That sounds very much like what I would enjoy, yes. Gay character stereotypes, the ones on Netflix, for example. My biggest issue, I think, growing up and seeing gay characters on TV and then how they've sort of evolved is one, there's this standard of beauty that I think was really unhealthy for a long time. And then it's adjusted to include more diversity in perhaps skin color and ethnicity, but there's still this like, it's so pervasive, like how everyone has to be exceptionally attractive. So I appreciate that we see more Black and brown people, but it's still like, you know, we need different sizes and not everyone can look like, you know, a soap opera star. And then I also think like a lot of gay characters are made to seem like asexual.
Yeah. Well, even in one of your favorites, Tu Wong Fu, they're doing that a lot, and there's maybe some troubling race things going on.
Sure, but for modern sort, well, yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, they completely override the legacy of Eartha Kitt.
Yeah. But thinking, you know, referencing like Netflix, some more modern stuff, I think, you know, there aren't a lot of representations of like mature gay men who are like stable, and it's always kind of like chaotic and
or it's like completely dull, like Supernova with Stanley Tucci and Colin Firth, where it's just like, well,
but it's you're
glad
right.
it's there, but this is really dull. I don't want to think that. I just
that's just right off the top of my head, but that's probably not the best answer.
Karen Black films of the 70s. Oh yeah.
I like Karen Black.
Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. Jimmy Dean is...
Nick would watch anything with Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, yeah, and I have. Yeah.
Is there anything you would give 6 out of 5 stars to? Like
Aliens.
Aliens is a 5-star movie.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to beat. I don't think you can.
Oh, that's how I'll remember Indica is down, because in the couch.
Oh, there you go.
I don't even remember that Earwig review. The missing CD. What's my favorite episode of Martin? What's your favorite episode?
Where has that allergic reaction.
When Pam. When Martin has his high school reunion and he's telling everyone Gina's a model, and she shows up after she has like the avocado mask allergy reaction.
Or wait, when Martin's playing his own mother and
the bird dies.
Damn.
Oh, also when Gina thinks she threw away his basketball tickets, so she has to work in Pam's or in Shanane's hair shop. And then we find out in the end that Shanane had found those tickets, so she really worked for her own tickets. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole and Omar Sharif in Lawrence of Arabia. You know, because Lawrence was gay, and that's very downplayed. I think Peter O'Toole he's doing that flamboyant thing where it. You know, if you were gay watching that, you would know then. Robert Pattinson played Lawrence of Arabia in Queen of the Desert, by the way, in a small role. But Omar Sharif, I think, was more beautiful than Peter O'Toole. The joke was that Peter O'Toole was so beautiful, they called it Florence of Arabia. But no, it's Omar Sharif. And I also think he looked great in Dr. Zhivago.
We have to wrap it up.
Both David Lean films.
Because I have to use the bathroom. But the camera loves us, apparently. Am I pretty today? Uncoupled. Why does that sound familiar?
It's a television series, isn't it?
I don't think we watched it then.
No.
Wait, is that with Neil Patrick Harris?
Oh, yes.
We watched one episode because a friend was making fun of the show and specifically making fun of Tisha Campbell. So I'm like, let me watch this and see. The episode where Martin goes to Gina's hotel room and the repairman, they're on the bed and he thinks she's cheating and he lifts up the mattress. There are so many. Seasons 1 and 2
are the best.
But like the last 2 seasons, it was a struggle.
Day of the Locust with Karen Black, yes. Donald Sutherland and I believe Geraldine Page as well. Trilogy of Terror. Yeah, how could I forget? The Zuni fetish doll, the third segment of that film. Oh, God, it's so good.
Okay, well, maybe, we do have to go because my bladder's full. The category for next time, I'll have to think. But there were good Blaxploitation or John Waters.
Talented Miss Ripley would be fun. You know, there are many versions of Patricia Highsmith's talented Miss Ripley, including Purple Noon, The American Friend from Wim Wenders, and of course Anthony Minghella with Matt Damon. But I saw that in ninth grade, and I remember picking up on the queerness of it. So I read all of her Ripley books. But
I do have to go to the bathroom.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure out about the next category.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.